will discover that this life is a battleground and not a playground. You hear what I said? This life, child of God, is a battleground and not a playground. I know it's a battleground because every day the divorce rate goes up. I know it's a battleground because every day the suicide rate goes up. I know it's a battleground because overdose and drug use is popular. I know it's a battleground because depression and anxiety and bipolar and many other mental disorders consume our children. I know it's a battleground because mothers are aborting, fathers are abandoning, pastors are burnt out, churches are closing. I know it's a battleground because convicted felons can still run for the highest office in this nation but can't even get a job at the local level. I know it's a battleground. And all I'm trying to say is we must always be prepared for the fight that we must face, that we can overcome, but only if we do it with the instructions of this text. Paul, that great apostle, is actually writing to the church at Ephesus from a Roman prison while he's chained to a Roman soldier. Paul, honestly, my brothers and sisters, is in his own battle, but he chooses to use his life not just to direct, but demonstrate, even while in chains, what it means to be strong in the Lord. And I want to pause in my passing and ask you on tonight, how many of you can demonstrate with your own life while you're going through your own trouble what it means to be strong in the Lord? How many of you can put on display the scars that you have in your body, that you bear within yourself while you go through the hell that you deal with every day? How many of you are willing to stand and testify to the fact that the only reason you still made it is because God has kept you? He's demonstrating, child of God, what it means to be wounded but still stand, what it means to be battled but still stand, what it means to be hurt but still stand. And it's too many of us that sing the song in our churches, I'm on the battlefield for the Lord, but when the fight is on and the battle has started, you tuck tail and run. God deliver us from wimpy Christians. So Paul, in his demonstrating of his life, he writes this book of Ephesians. He pens chapter 6 to the church of Ephesus, and he begins to lay out his plan for the church to be successful. And he starts, child of God, by telling us that parents have a responsibility to their children. And children have a responsibility to their parents. We quote it all the time. You know, children, obey your mothers and your fathers, for this is right in the Lord. The first commandment would promise that your lives might be long. But what we miss, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. And I wonder how many of us have disobedient children because we've had provoking parents. So maybe your obedient child has turned into disobedient children because you've been a provoking parent. Paul says, untouched, you got to be careful how you nurture your children, but children, you got to be careful how you reverence your parents. And then he says, hey, you masters and rulers, you got to be careful how you handle those who serve you, and those who serve got to be careful about those who and how they serve. Paul says that there's a system to this thing. Because the truth is, our fight is not with each other. But if we can corrupt our children, but if we can anger our parents, but if we can dismantle our work system, then the enemy has room to cause hell. Y'all, Paul says unto us on tonight, you got to always be strapped, because there is an enemy that you will always have to face consistently. And so he says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you might be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. Y'all, he says you got to always be strapped because of the enemy we fight. Here it is, y'all. I want to tell you on today, your husband is not your fight. Your wife is not your fight. Your daughter is not your fight. Your son is not your fight. Your pastor, hear me and hear me well, is not your fight. What I want to tell you on today, there is a spirit that works among all of us that if we're not careful, it would come in and distract us from our assignment. I want to tell you on today that you got to be strong, not in and of your own might. Okay, I get it. I know you like to be strong in your money. You like to be strong in your last name. You like to be strong in your degrees. You like to be strong in your title. You like to be strong in your credentials. But you aren't strong in none of those things. You can only be strong in the Lord. This same Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This same Bible says they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run and not get weary, walk and not faint. I hope y'all don't mind if I cut through the field. You got to be strong in the Lord. Why? Because there's an unseen enemy at work in our lives. Y'all, here it is, y'all. I get it. Many of us can't fight this enemy because many of us are just like this enemy. He says, you're standing against the wiles of the devil, Satan. Satan, who is suggested to be Lucifer, who was the angel of the morning, who was the worship angel that got kicked out of heaven for his arrogance and pride, and now he is working amongst us in darkness. And y'all, so it is suggested unto us that we are fighting against someone that many of us act just like, because you too prideful, you too arrogant, you too mean, you too messy. You lie too much, you cuss too much, you drink too much, you smell yourself too much. In the words of my uncle, you done left your clothes in the dryer too long, and now your britches fit a little too tight, and you feel like you can be a man all by yourself. You can't fight him because we act just like him. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 3 through 4, that says, but even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing, whose minds the God of this age has blinded. But can I tell you on tonight, the problem is some of us help him hang the curtains. We help him hang the curtains when we present to the world a Christian that looks just like them. We help him hang the curtains when we present to the world a church that has no love but fights amongst itself. We help him hang the curtains when we present to the world a home that is falling apart. Y'all, there is an enemy that we face, and if we don't get our lives together, he's gonna keep winning. I got to move, y'all. Here it is. We got to always be strapped because of the enemy we fight. We got to be strapped because of what the equipment we wear. Paul says, your fight is not against flesh and blood. It's against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to stand. Paul suggests here in the original text that when we take up the whole armor of God, what it really looks like is us taking on all of Jesus. And I know you don't like to take on all of Jesus, because taking on all of Jesus means you have to put all of you away. And I know you don't like to put all of you away because you feel too good about yourself. But let me tell you, in the words of my grandmother, you run nothing but your mouth and your bath water. You are nobody without the Lord on your side. Who you are, the Lord made you. Where you are, the Lord is taking you. What you know, the Lord taught you. And where you're going, God has got to take you there. And so this equipment that we wear is really the person and the personality of the Lord Jesus Christ. Because when you put on Jesus, you have peace that surpasses all understanding. When you put on Jesus, you can love niggas that hate you. When you put on Jesus, you can walk in the authority that he's given you. He says this spiritual equipment will guard your whole man. He says this spiritual equipment will guard your mind. That's why it says put on the helmet of salvation. This spiritual equipment will cover your heart and cause it from turning cold. That's why it says put on the breastplate of righteousness. This spiritual equipment, he says you got to put on truth on your waist, because it'll help you stand when they constantly lie on you, lie about you, lie to you. You can still walk in truth. He says you got to put on this equipment, which is the shoes of peace, so that everywhere you go, instead of stirring up mess and bringing strife and causing fights, you can have some peace among you. Maybe nobody want to hang out with you because you too mean all the time.
That's right.
He says you got to cover your whole man, because this enemy looks for any opportunity where you may be uncovered and unguarded so that he can get in. And y'all, if he can get in, he'll cause all kind of hell. If he can get in, he'll keep you up at night. If he can get in, you'll constantly be crying. If he could get in, you'll never get any sleep. If he can get in, your children will never get straight. If he could get in, y'all, the school system will go down the drain. If he could get in, Donald Trump might become president again. If he could get in, y'all, I want to tell you, our churches will be broke, busted, and disgusted. If he can get in. I gotta quit.
There we go.
Let me quit.
Busted and disgusted.
Always strapped because of the enemy we fight. Always strapped
Yes, Lord.
with the equipment we use, but always strapped in the energy we need. Y'all, Paul is getting ready to close this letter. He's actually getting ready to be done with writing to this church at Ephesus. But he takes a look at the situation he's in, realizing that Rome is an oppressive system and that they refuse to accept the fact that Jesus is Lord. Hey, by the way, can I help you right quick? Jesus is Lord was a political statement, because they were saying Caesar is Lord, and Christians had to come back and remind them that Jesus was Lord. And what I want to tell you, child of God, is that there is a name that's above every name, and it might get you in trouble, but no matter what trouble it gets you in, that same name can get you out. I want to tell you, you have to learn to stand, even if you gotta stand by yourself. The energy we need, Paul says, is this: praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that the utterance may be given, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Y'all, the energy we use is really prayer. I know you may have been looking for something deeper than that. I know you might have been looking for something more theological than that, but that's all I want to tell you. The energy that we use
Lord have mercy.
is prayer.
Prayer.
Because one writer put it this way: any man that can kneel before God can stand before any man. I want to tell you on tonight, child of God, that if you got a weak prayer life, then you got weak power in your life. If you ain't got no prayer life, then you ain't got no power in your life. If you want power from the Lord, you got to spend time with him in prayer. Matter of fact, my grandfather said it best. He's sitting over there right now, Dr. Allen Ray Randall. He said it this way: prayer is power released at your earliest request. So the moment that you can go down to God in prayer is the moment that you can get what you need to be able to stand to face the next day. And watch this. I'm about to make somebody mad, but it's okay. Y'all praying always with all prayer. Paul suggests unto us that prayer is not just you getting what you want from God. God, give me. God, make a way. God, open the door. God, come through. When do you pray for your neighbor? When do you pray for those who you love? When do you pray for your pastor? When would you pray for your church? When do you pray for this nation? If you're constantly looking for God to give you a handout, when do you find the time to pray for somebody else's strength? And I want to ask you on today, and beg the question and suggest unto you on today, that if we would just learn to pray for one another, maybe we could be strong in the Lord together. I'm quitting. I'm done. May the Lord bless you real well. But I told you, you got to always be strapped. And y'all, one of my favorite things to do at my big grown age is still watch cartoons. And one of my favorite cartoons is Popeye. And y'all, Popeye, it opened the same way, it closed the same way, it was always the same storyline. But I like it. Y'all, here's what happened. The scene would open up. Popeye and Oliver will be somewhere minding their own business. And out of nowhere, here come Brutus and Bruno. And they start turning Popeye every which way but loose. And eventually he gets tired of getting beat up on. And Popeye realizes that he's strapped with something that can get him out of what he's in. Y'all, Popeye goes into his shirt. He pulls out the energy that he needs. He pops open the can and y'all, he gains strength out of nowhere and begins to beat up on what was beaten up on him. Good night, church. May the Lord bless you real well. But can I tell you, on this evening, we have our own can.